Well, hello everyone. I am so excited to be back with you all. For those who don't know me, I am Chanel McCord. I am the owner, the CEO, and clinical director of Oasis Wellness Group. And I'm so excited to be back here for another live segment of the Jumpstart Your Journey to Mental Wellness series. Listen, y'all, I don't know if you've been listening in over the last couple of weeks, but it's been good. We started out, I laid some foundation of what this Jumpstart journey is. I laid some foundation about the importance of Jumpstart, what that even means in the first week. Then last week, oh my goodness, I had the opportunity to interview Emily Rodriguez. Listen, if y'all were a part of that, it was so powerful, and I expected nothing less. Whenever me and Emily do an interview, I just knew it was going to be good. And so if you didn't get a chance, make sure you go ahead and catch the replay. You can catch it on my Facebook page at Oasis Wellness Group. I am posting them on Instagram, so you can catch it on IGTV, on Instagram at Oasis Wellness Group, or you can catch it on YouTube, again, at Oasis Wellness Group. And so I just wanted to give a couple of seconds for people to log in. Y'all know the deal. Y'all know how we do this, right? Now that you are here, make sure you share. That's what I need you to do right now. Before you do anything else, I need you to make sure that you share so that we can get the word out. Hit the share button, tag somebody in the comments, let them know that they need to be watching tonight. This is good information that we just want to give away so that we can bless your souls. So make sure everybody who needs this blessing, make sure that they are in the building, the virtual building anyway. And so I'm super, super excited. Hi, Miss Patricia. I see that you're on. Hi, Michelle. I see that you're on and you're tagging people. That's what I'm talking about. Listen, y'all see I got my pillow, right? I brought the pillow back so I can get nice and comfy, because I got to be comfortable for these conversations because you never know what's going to happen. And so while we wait a few minutes for people to come on, I just want to go ahead and share a couple of things with you all. A couple of things that I've shared with you the last couple of weeks. So bear in mind with me on this Jumpstart journey. So the first thing I want to share with you all, we're going to see if this works, y'all, because technology, when you want it to work, it don't be working the way you want it to work. So here we go. Got it. So the first thing I want to remind you all about my email list. Listen, I keep saying this. You want to get on my email list. Why? You want to get on my email list because my email audience gets it first. I send out all the goodies to them first. Extra content, if I'm having thoughts for the day or whatever the case is, they are getting it first. When I have programs and events and offers, the email audience is getting it first, and they are getting the discount, so they're getting a deal. So what I need you to do is I need you to go to bit.ly / all caps Oasis email. Again, that is bit.ly / all caps Oasis email. When you enter that, you're going to be brought to this page that I'm sharing right here. And because I am such a giving person, and because I love y'all know I love you, right? Because of all of that, I wrote an e-booklet. This ebooklet is called 8 Mental Health Quick Tips While Navigating Uncertain Times. So when you go to that bit.ly link, again, is bit.ly / all caps Oasis email, you're going to go to this page. It's going to show you the ebooklet. And all I need you to do, simple, put your name, put your email, and then you're going to get an automatic download of this ebook. And what I promise you, this ebook is good. The last year and a half or so, I think we're going on like 20 months or something now, right? Have been crazy. And so these are just some tips that I have collected over time, some tips that I have given to clients as well. So make sure you get a part of that ebook. That's right, Michelle. Keep tagging them. Come on, y'all. Keep tagging them. Make sure the people are in the building. Hi, Doris. Thank you for joining tonight. And then the last thing I want to do before I introduce our guest for the hour is I have, did I do what I think I did? Nope, I didn't do it. Okay, I have the amazing opportunity where I was selected to be a speaker at the Roadmap to Destiny conference, speaking alongside none other than Pastor Cora Jakes Coleman. Listen, I am super, super excited. I'm about to share with y'all. I am super excited for this opportunity, right? Y'all already know Pastor Joy Morgan knows how to put on a conference. If she can't do nothing else, she can put on a conference, y'all. You want to be there. I'm going to be speaking on Mindset Evolved. We're going to be talking about going from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So I can help you to go from stagnant to unstoppable, like the conference tagline says. The price for the conference goes up on Sunday. But if you DM me, hit my inbox, I have a special registration link where you can get 10% off. Right? So you already getting the early price if you register before Sunday. And then I'm going to get you 10 additional % off if you DM me and you register and let me know that you're registering. But you want to be at this conference. There are 6 keynote speakers, including Pastor Cora Jakes Coleman. And then we have 13 power session speakers. And then if you can attend in person, there's also the Evolution After Party and there's the Destiny Awards Banquet. It's going to be good. You want to be in a building. It is a hybrid virtual experience. So make sure you are in the building. Again, remember, if you want to be a part of it, go ahead, DM me right now. Don't wait. Go ahead, just DM me and I will send you the registration link. All right. Got all of that out the way. Because I am super, super, super excited for tonight. Listen, the speaker that I have coming, this is a special one for me. This is my brother from another mother. We went to I'm going to tell y'all all of this before I bring him on because he may say something different, right? But we went to high school together and we barely talked in high school, whatever the issue is. But then we went to college and we formed just this amazing bond. And we've been through so much life together, even on the professional journey. And we talk about mental health all the time. So tonight is really just us letting you in on our conversations. So I don't know what's going to happen, right? I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to be said. Y'all just stay tuned because it's going to be good. And so I am let me bring to the stage Mr. Dashawne Hayes. Hey, Day.
Hey, Chanel. Thank you for the introduction. And yes, we have been through life together, as you said. You and Marcellus, I consider you and Marcellus to just be like my cousins now. We're not even friends no more.
Exactly, just family.
Right. And I'm so excited to be here to speak with you tonight. Like, I'm really, really, really excited because, like you said, we have these conversations all the time. Now it's just letting the world learn to listen to it and just like soak it all up. So I'm excited.
Yeah. So it's good. So before we jump into the questions and stuff, introduce yourself to the people. Let them know what your background is. Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Dashawne Hayes, as Chanel stated. I graduated from Seton Hall University with a bachelor's in social behavioral sciences and a minor in social work. I also have a master's degree in psychology with a concentration in human behavior and organizational psychology. I worked in the community mental health field for a few years, and during my time working in the field, I worked as a case manager, a transitional employment coordinator, and a MICA coordinator. And for those of you that don't know, MICA stands for mentally ill, chemically addicted, and that is for people that have both a mental health diagnosis and substance abuse issues. And in each of those roles, I was responsible for facilitating psychoeducational groups. So basically, I would have to facilitate groups on stress management, anger management, money management, setting boundaries, whatever you could think of, I probably taught about it. And I did that for years. So I was responsible for facilitating 3 groups for over the course of like 5 or 6 years. So I would have to say I probably did thousands of groups, over 1,000 groups. So it was something that I really enjoyed doing and something that I realized that people needed. People needed the information. There was a lot of things that people just didn't know in regards to mental health and emotional wellness. And it was something that they really benefited from when they did get the information. So now what I do is I speak to universities, organizations about enhancing mental and emotional wellness utilizing emotional intelligence. So that's what I do.
Somebody commented, come through credentials. Listen, okay, we dropping the credentials. I don't bring y'all fluff, right? Like I'm bringing y'all the real deal. I don't believe in bringing y'all fluff. So I'm super excited. Hi, Richard. I see that you're joining us on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. And again, if you are on, make sure you go ahead and share the stream. So I'm super excited to be here tonight. So we're going to jump in. So tonight, so one of these things that I'm doing is I started this live series, the Jumpstart Your Journey to Mental Wellness, because I find that there is still a lot of stigma around mental health. There's still a lot of stigma around going to therapy. Everybody is not ready necessarily yet to go to therapy or even understanding mental health. What I find is I do a lot of what's called psychoeducation in sessions with clients, which is basically just teaching them about if they have a specific disorder, teaching them about their disorder and teaching them about mental health. And people find that so beneficial because you just don't know, right? You hear things, we say things in popular terminology. Like we say stuff like, oh, borderline. We just throw out OCD and we throw out bipolar, but these are very real things that people are dealing with. And so what happens is because of popular language, popular culture, and popular trends, we've taken these very real things and we've made them to be out to be something negative and out to be something bad because, oh, you just OCD. Oh, you just bipolar and all this other stuff. So I brought this series together to be able to bring people some real knowledge and some real information to help them to jumpstart their journey. Now, I got something big coming for y'all. I'm not going to tell you just yet, but something is launching. I'm going to tell you when it's launching, though. Black Friday weekend. Stay tuned. I'm going to help y'all to jumpstart your journey. But so, Dashawne, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is emotional intelligence. It's not something that people talk about. It's not even something that most people even knows exists. Like we know that we have an IQ, but most people didn't even realize that they had an EQ.
Right.
And that is the difference. So what is emotional intelligence? Break this down for us.
Okay, so basically, in a nutshell, emotional intelligence is your ability to understand, manage, and use your emotions in positive ways that will benefit you, right? It's very simple in that aspect where we understand the emotions that we're feeling. We're able to understand that, okay, I'm feeling anger, I'm feeling sadness, I'm feeling joy. You can manage them if they are negative, and then you can apply them appropriately to the situation. What happens is that in society, and we spoke about this previously, emotions has become a very negative thing, right? So we tell people things like, get out of your feelings, stop being so emotional. And we cause people to suppress their emotions. And what happens is so many people think that suppressing their emotions is emotional management, right? And again, I used to feel like if I had negative emotions and I could suppress them and I could push them down and not let them bother me, I felt like that was a strength of mine. So something would happen, I would get into some type of argument, something would hurt my feelings, and then I would just, be angry, but I would get up and go to work the next day and I would feel like, oh, I did that. Like, I ain't let it bother me. But one thing that I learned is that emotions are meant to be expressed. I'm gonna say that again.
Hold on, let me pause you right there. So you mean to tell me that me suppressing my emotions is not a good thing? It's not a healthy thing? You mean to tell me that I'm supposed to express my emotions?
You're supposed to express your emotions, yes, because what happens is when we push down the emotion, right? Let's say that we are experiencing some type of anger and we push that down. And basically, pushing it down means that I'm ignoring it. I'm ignoring it and I'm pushing it to the side. What will eventually happen, because I need everybody that's listening to remember this, emotions are meant to be expressed. Your emotions are like a compass. They guide you. So when you have an emotional response to something, that is your emotions trying to tell you something. So if something happens and I feel afraid, or something happens and I feel angry, I need to address that. But what happens in society, we say, no, don't feel like, you shouldn't feel like that, or get out your feelings and stop being emotional. So when we suppress it, we ignore it. But your emotions are going to find a way to show up in your life. Whether you believe it or not, they're going to find a way to come up. So if you are walking around extremely fearful, right? If you have a lot of fear and you're walking around with a lot of fear and you keep ignoring it and pressing it to the side, eventually it's going to seep up in different ways in your life. So I did a webinar a few months ago. It was titled Understanding and Managing the Emotions of Fear. And in that webinar, one of the parts that we spoke about was how fear comes up in our everyday life, right?
Right.
So let's say, for example, somebody has been like they don't like criticism.
Right.
And they've been criticized and they've been put down, so that bothers them.
Right.
So let's say they're at work. And at work, you can't escape criticism. You're going to have to get constructive criticism. That's just a part of it. At work and life, there are going to be times when you have to take constructive criticism. But if a person is not aware of their emotions, if they're not aware of that fear and they just push it to the side,
Right.
When they begin to, if somebody says, okay, I need to tell you that you did this wrong, I need you to correct it, that person may become combative, or that
Mm-hmm.
person may shy away, or that person may become passive aggressive, right?
Right.
So it's like,
Right.
you judged me. And instead of me understanding that, okay, maybe you were just trying to, be helpful, if I'm not aware of my emotions and I'm not aware of the way that I process my emotions, I may just be saying, you know what, you judged me. So what I'm going to do
Mm.
is I'm going to get you back some kind of way. I'm going to get you back
Mm.
some kind of way. I may be passive aggressive. I may, ignore you. I may hit you with one word answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we want to be passive aggressive, but
Right.
it's not the healthiest thing. So to say all that to say, your emotions will come up. If you're not dealing with them, they're going to come up. They're going
Right.
to start to affect every aspect of your life. And I think that's something that people often overlook. And we
Right.
kind of disguise it as that's just the way I am, and
Mm.
not really understanding the root of it.
Yeah, so you said a lot. So I want to take a moment because I want to make sure that the audience really hears everything that you're saying. You said a lot. You said a lot. And you said that emotional intelligence signifies our ability to be able to manage our emotions.
Yes,
And I want to bring voice to management is different than ignoring.
yes,
You are not managing your emotions if you are ignoring your emotions. That is
right,
not management. Management means that I am able to hold space for and I'm able to effectively deal with what manifests. If I don't allow it to manifest, then I can't effectively deal with it.
right,
And always understanding that suppressing my emotions and ignoring them and trying to act like they don't exist, that is not healthy management of your emotions. It's not healthy. As you said, our emotions are meant to be expressed. And bringing back into it, like I always think in terms of why would God give it to us if it was something that we're supposed to just ignore and suppress and put to the side or whatever the case is? We were created as emotional beings. Letting people in on some of our conversation we had a little bit earlier is that we look at emotional as a negative thing. If I'm emotional, oh, that's a problem. Emotional is simply a state of being. It is not, is neither good, it is neither bad, right? And as we stated earlier, okay, when we say emotional, we talk about all the negative stuff. But the reality is when I'm happy, when I'm joyful, when I'm content, that is also being emotional. And
right.
even those feelings need to be managed, right? Because if you too happy, that could lead you to do some impulsive stuff, right? You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So emotions are meant to be managed. So if y'all hear nothing else tonight, I want you to hear that emotions are to be expressed and emotions are meant to be managed. As a matter of fact, to make sure y'all listening, somebody drop that in the comments right now. Emotions are to be expressed and emotions are meant to be managed. Go ahead and drop that in the comments with me. So I know that y'all are getting that point. So you said that. You said that,
Yeah.
which was really good. Um, I want to bring up, and this is kind of off script, but where did this idea of let me ignore and suppress my emotions come from?
So what happens is the people when we express emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually it's towards somebody else. So if I feel offended, if I feel hurt, if I feel upset, it may have to do with somebody else. But
Mm-hmm.
people may not have the space or feel comfortable with hearing our emotions or dealing with our emotions. So it may make them uncomfortable. So they may say, just why are you being so emotional? Why are you being so dramatic? So usually what happens is when we're younger, we're told, stop acting like that. You don't got nothing to worry about. You shouldn't be sad. You shouldn't be upset. And we're told these things. And because we're told these things, that becomes our normal way of coping. We feel like, okay, I can't say that I'm upset because I'm gonna be reprimanded. I can't say that
Mm-hmm.
I'm sad because I'm going to be,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be disciplined. So I
Mm-hmm.
have to just hold everything in, and I have to just ignore it and act like it does not exist because I don't want to get in trouble, so to speak.
Right.
And that's what
Right.
happens, and that's how we learn. And I think what happens too is that a lot of times people think that what we experience one time, it really doesn't affect us. When we experience these things when we're growing up, that happened before. And now we're adults and now we're all healthy and everybody's happy. But that's not necessarily the case, especially
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to emotions, because we learn how to handle our emotions by the environment that we're raised in. That's just
Yes.
what happens. We learned that.
Yes.
So if we're around a bunch of people that's telling us, don't act like that, don't say that, you don't have anything to be mad about, you don't have anything to be upset about, we internalize that and that becomes our way of being.
Absolutely. That is so good and that is so pivotal. That is one of my cries from the mountaintops as a therapist, as a mental health professional, as a mental health advocate, right? One of my cries from the mountaintop is what we teach our children from their households. Learning starts at home. Learning, we say learning starts at home, but please also understand lack of learning is still learning. Lack of learning is still learning. And so the skills that we lack and we don't teach our children, we're still teaching them something. We're
Mm-hmm.
still teaching them something. And so that always starts in our childhood, right? Frederick Douglass puts it like this: broken children become broken men.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It starts in childhood and then it transitions and it crosses over. We have to be very careful. And those of us who are adults, right? We also have to be cognizant of the messaging that we received when we were children, the messaging that we received in our upbringing, and making sure, one, that we're teaching this next generation and we're teaching our children a new message, and two, understanding and recognizing the messaging so that we can then begin to undo the messaging because it's unhealthy messaging. And so what I have found is when that conversation is happening, when it's stop crying before I give you something to cry about, or you don't have nothing to cry for, or what's wrong with you, or just go take a nap, you'll be fine, or whatever the case is. What I have found, the reason why that is the reaction is because the person who is saying these things don't know how to manage emotion. And so
Right.
they are uncomfortable. And because they are uncomfortable, the reaction is to stop, shut up. Don't say that. Don't do that. You don't need to do that. Right. What we have to understand is that everybody has a different emotional capacity.
Mm-hmm.
This is where that whole conversation of emotional intelligence comes in.
Right.
Everybody has a different emotional capacity. So because I cry over something that you don't deem as something as cryable doesn't make the reason why I'm crying any less important or have any less effect on me just because you don't think it's important. That is
Right.
the whole idea with trauma. Trauma is a relative to the person. I talked about this last week with Emily, and we talked about somebody falling down the stairs is trauma. Somebody being abused is trauma. Somebody losing their job is trauma. Somebody, a friend calling another friend stupid is trauma. Now we look at these things and we try to rate and compare which one is worse and which one is less or whatever the case is. But the reality is there is no worse, there is no less worse. The reality is trauma is relative to the person. And so we have to stop dismissing people's feelings, and we have to stop dismissing the feelings of our children because we don't deem it as important. I remember one of the things I remember is when I was working in a school, there were times where some of the staff and some of the adults would always tell kids, "Oh, girl, you crying over that relationship. Boys come a dime a dozen. You'll be fine." Or we downplay these things because from an adult, mature perspective, we understand because we've lived life. But when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to children, we have to understand that they are still going through life. They're still going through the process. And I remember if you think back for a second, there were situations that happened in my childhood and in my teenage years that were like so big to me. It was so important to me, right? It affected me so much. Now I'm like, I don't even know why I was worried about that. But at the time, it was the biggest thing in the world. And
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. We have to let people have their lived experience, if that makes sense, and stop downplaying people's emotions. And back to the original point, just because you don't know how to manage it doesn't mean that it's okay for you to cause everybody else around you to feel guilty or shamed over the emotions that they are expressing.
Right. I agree. I
You
agree
know,
with that.
yeah. So, emotional intelligence. And you said it is our ability to manage. What does management look like?
So it all depends on the situation, right? Because everybody will manage things differently. But I think to go back to the first point, so there are five components of emotional intelligence, right? The first one is
Okay.
self-awareness that we just spoke about. Understanding.
Hold on. Now listen, y'all. He's dropping the 5 components. So I need somebody to drop it in the comments for me. You said the first component is self-awareness. Somebody drop that.
Self-awareness, that's the first one. And we just spoke about that. Basically, being able to identify your emotions, understanding what you're feeling, that's the first one. The second one is self-regulation, right? Self-regulation. So once you're aware of the emotion that you're feeling, you can regulate. And like you said, we talked about in the beginning, suppression is not regulation. Suppression is not management. So when you regulate, that basically can look like whatever helps the person get through. And as per our conversation earlier, when we spoke about some things you're going to be able to get over, and then there are going to be some things that you have to learn how to deal with. And there are going to be some things that you have to learn how to manage on your own. So when it comes to management, let's say, let's go back to the criticism thing, right? Where when somebody gives me constructive criticism, I feel bad, I feel upset, I feel vengeful, I don't want to listen to this person. What happens when I learn how to self-regulate? I can kind of have an internal conversation with myself. So when that person says something to me that I may feel like it's criticism, I have to ask myself, is this person helping me? Is this person saying something wrong, or is this person attempting to help me? And then if I do the work to kind of understand that, okay, I have a tendency to respond in a negative way when somebody tells me that I'm wrong. If I understand that, then I can kind of say, okay, those feelings are coming up and I feel bad, but I know that they're trying to help me. And that's how it can work. When you can kind of identify the emotion that you're feeling and then kind of give yourself that internal conversation about what's actually happening. Because when we have low emotional intelligence, our perception is skewed, right? Our perception is skewed. So when we have low emotional intelligence, everything may seem like a threat to us. We may look at everything as a threat. So we may say like, okay, this person is trying to be funny, they're rude, they're this, they're that. But when we enhance our emotional intelligence, we say, okay, am I taking this the wrong way? Right? Am I looking at this the wrong way? And if I am, I need to be able to tell myself that and bring myself back down to a place of being objective. So work. That takes work to get to that point.
This is good. When we have a low EQ, when we have low emotional intelligence, our perception is skewed. I don't want y'all to miss that point. This is an important point. It's important because so many of us do have a low emotional intelligence quotient. We have low EQs and we operate out of that. Right? Because our mind, our body, our behaviors are all connected. So if I think it, it's going to cause me to feel it. It's going to cause me to act on it. So if my perception is skewed, some of us are interacting with life, engaging in our relationships, trying to do business, trying to work, trying to raise our children from a place of a skewed perception. That is powerful, y'all. Don't miss that. A lot of us are operating in life in a skewed perception because we have not done the work that we need to do to raise our emotional intelligence. And that's that emotional work. As Dashawne is talking, I'm also hearing emotional processing and the necessity of that. So I wanted to make sure that I stopped for a second and I highlighted that. You can go ahead. Are you frozen? You there? It looks like he may be frozen. Dave, if you can hear us, let me know. You can hear me?
You're freezing on my screen.
See, y'all, the devil. See, we're getting in the conversation getting good, and then the devil want to go ahead and mess up the stream and cause him to freeze. But that's okay because we're going to continue the conversation anyway. He'll be back on in a second. But I wanted to highlight the point of what he said, that it is important. And this is why we started this Jumpstart journey, right? This is why I started this live series, because it is important for us to understand, and it's important for us to know that as we jumpstart our journey to mental wellness, and as we do the emotional work, as we tap in and we engage and we do this work, what we are doing is that we are helping ourselves to increase our emotional intelligence. We are helping ourselves to increase our EQ and our capacity, right? And so that is important. Dashawne, can you hear us? You can hear us? All right. So still waiting for him
I
to
can
come
hear you,
back.
but it's
You
still
can
kind
hear?
of
Okay.
like
Okay. We can hear you though. We can hear you. That's the devil, y'all. As soon as we get into the good part of the conversation, the enemy want to come and mess up the stream and the Wi-Fi and all of that. Because he knows somebody getting free tonight from this conversation. Okay. Somebody's about to get free. And so the devil is mad. So anyway, go ahead. So you gave us the first two components. You told us that self-awareness and self-regulation. What is the third component of emotional intelligence?
so. The third component is empathy, right? Empathy,
Mm,
our ability to understand what someone else is going through. So it's basically putting ourselves in someone else's shoes. And
mm-hmm,
as we talked about earlier, empathy is a tricky one, right?
mm-hmm,
Because there's a fine line between empathy and codependency. There's a fine line
mm-hmm,
between empathy and enabling. And I think that
mm-hmm.
sometimes we blur those lines because if we're people that are full of love and we're full of compassion and we like helping people, sometimes we can take on other people's stuff. So I think one of
Mm-hmm.
the biggest things, one of the biggest lessons that we have to learn in our journey is learning how, especially with those that we love, learning how to be, um, how to properly empathize. I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
biggest one, how to properly empathize. Because empathy looks like I hear you, I understand what you're going through, tell me
Yeah.
more. How does
Yeah.
that make you feel? And
Mm-hmm.
then I'll offer assistance, I'll offer help if I'm able to. Or I'll point you to
Mm.
resources. I'll point you to resources that can help you. Right?
I like it.
And I think a lot of people struggle with proper empathy because again, goes back and we can't escape it. Goes back to the things that we experience in childhood. Some of us are
Right.
taught to be overly empathetic. And I was thinking about this earlier. And you know when people say, I'm such a good person. I'm such a nice person, and people always seem to take advantage of me. I always attract negative people. Or I'm always giving. I don't get the same thing in return. And one of my questions is, what place are you giving from? Right?
Mm.
Are you giving from a place of fear? Are you giving from a place of desperation? Are you giving from a place of I don't want to be rejected?
Mm.
Because
Come on
whenever
and
you're
drop your cash app real quick, y'all. Y'all better send him an offer. He preaching now.
because whenever but listen, whenever you are being taken advantage of, and I am not victim blaming, so please do not think I am blaming anybody. But whenever you are being taken advantage of time and time again, that's a lack of you setting proper boundaries.
Come on.
And usually we do not set proper boundaries because there's a fear there. So we over empathize. And I hear people say that all the time. And I'm sure I've said it myself as well. I'm so nice to people. I give so much and I don't get the same thing in return, or people take advantage of me. But we have to ask ourselves, and this is part of being emotionally intelligent, what space am I giving from? Am
Mm.
I giving because I'm fearful? Am
Mm.
I giving because I don't want to experience rejection? Am I
Mm.
over giving because I want people to look at me a certain type of way because I have low self esteem? What
Come on.
place are we giving from?
Come
Because
on.
if you can be nice, you can be empathetic and still have boundaries. You can be empathetic and still be assertive. You can be
You can be
empathetic.
empathetic and still have boundaries. Somebody drop that in the comments. Go ahead.
And I think this is something that I had to learn as well. I think that especially with those that we love, because it's easy when you kind of just somebody you don't know, but when it's somebody that you love, it's kind of hard to draw that line.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're able to say, I understand what you're going through, I hear you, I see you, I understand, tell me more, I want to really understand, it becomes, you don't want to cross that line of, I'll take on everything.
Mm.
I'll take on all your problems. I'll take on everything. So if you guys take nothing else from that, ask yourself, what place am I giving from? Am I giving from a place of fear? Am I empathizing out of fear? Am I empathizing out of, I don't want my ego to be bruised? You have to ask yourself that, because when you do, it'll stop a lot of things from happening. It'll stop people from taking advantage of you. It'll stop you from getting in and out of unhealthy relationships, whether that be friendships, romantic relationships, whatever. So I think that's a very important point to me.
And let me pause you right there. One of the things, one of my favorite sayings, and I say this to clients all the time, is you teach people how to treat you. You teach people how to treat you. And so, like you said, it's not victim blaming. It is just a God's honest truth that when you are constantly being taken advantage of, or feel like people are walking all over you, you have to look at what boundaries you have set and what you have taught them is okay. Because like I said earlier, with parents, lack of teaching is still teaching. Guess what? Lack of changing how somebody is teaching you is still teaching them something. And so what we do oftentimes, we get so frustrated because it's just like, oh, they don't respect my boundaries. Oh, they don't respect me. But what have you taught people about how to treat you? They did it once and you let it slide. They did it twice and you let it slide. Now the fifth time and you real mad, you big mad. But the problem is you got to be big mad with yourself because you did nothing with it. And here's the thing. There are predators out there who purposely take advantage of people. There are. But then there are people who harmlessly take advantage of people because you have showed me that you're reliable and that you're dependable and I can always call on you, and you have never set a boundary. And so what we do is we destroy relationships and we preterize people. I don't even know if that's a word, but I'm gonna use a word today. We preterize people because they're always taking advantage of me, or they're always doing this to me, or whatever the case is. But we have not taught them how to treat us. We have not set boundaries. So then you can't turn around and get mad at this person because they saw you as dependable. And so now they're trying to give you more responsibility or whatever it is. That is your fault. And it's something that you have to look at. And like you said, what are your motives? What place are you giving out of? Are you giving out of a place of being a people pleaser? Do you want everybody to like you? I don't want nobody to be mad with me. So you giving, but you mad when you giving. If you can't do it from a joyful place and from a joyful heart, then you probably shouldn't give whatever it is that you are setting out to give. Now, granted, there are times that relationship and wanting to be empathetic and helping people, it's not always convenient. It's not going to always be cookie cutter and convenient. And you may not always feel like it. But for the majority of the time, what place are you giving out of? That is so good. So important. It's so good.
Yes.
All right. So you gave us self-awareness, self-regulation, and empathy. What's number 4?
Number 4 is self-motivation, right? Self-motivation, being able to motivate yourself. Now, this one is a very interesting one because when I thought about it, I'm a deep thinker. You know, I think a lot. Like, I will think
too much sometimes.
I would overthink everything. But I was thinking about motivation, and motivation is basically your ability to act, your ability to convince yourself to do something, right? Now, I was thinking, like, well, why is this an emotional thing? Why is this an emotional thing? It's an emotional thing because, like, me and one of my other friends, we were having a conversation, and he said, some people are just lazy. And I said, I don't think people are just lazy. I don't think that people are just lazy. There's something. There's something that causes a person to be lazy, and that has to do with emotions. So when it comes to motivation, if you have a low emotional intelligence, your motivation is not going to be high because you have not learned how to control your emotions. So what are the things that can get in the way of our motivation? Anxiety, that can stop us from being motivated. Feeling sad, that can stop us from being motivated. Having low self-esteem, that can stop us from being motivated. It's not just a thing of, oh, well, you're just lazy, you don't ever want to do nothing. There's a blockage there. And when you have a low EQ and you feel in your internal world, your emotions, you're experiencing different emotions and you don't know what to do with them, then you're not going to be motivated. But when you do raise your emotional intelligence, and one way, and this is a very popular way, but one way that is very helpful is to understand your why. Understand why you are doing something. So, like, even if it comes to, like, a person saying, you know what, I know that I've been feeling bad and I need to go to therapy, right? I know
Mm-hmm.
that I've been having issues and I need to go to therapy. I need to go to therapy, but they just don't have the motivation to do it. They every
Right.
time they pick up, like they don't have it. The why, if you insert the why in that conversation, it can become, I know I need to go because I don't want to be stuck like this forever.
Come
I
on.
need to go because I know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. I know that I need to go because I want to be able to have a healthy relationship with my mother, my brother, my sister, my spouse, whoever. So you
Right.
find that why, and once you find that why, your emotions begin to shift. When
Come on.
hope is an emotion, right? So
Yep.
hope is an emotion. So when we're feeling low and you don't feel motivated and you feel down and sad and hopeless, when you kind of shift your mind to thinking about, okay, what's the possibility, right?
Right.
Why I knew I needed to go to therapy and I needed to talk to somebody. The possibility and the why that I can hold on to is that maybe I won't, if I go to therapy, I won't be in the same space next year, right? Maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
my why.
That's
Next
good.
year, I'll be in a different space.
That's
So
good.
motivation is you finding the ability to push yourself when you don't feel like doing it. And my solution for that, and there's tons of solutions, this is not the end all be all, is finding
Mm-hmm.
a why and finding a better future, creating a
Right.
better future. Those are the two
Yeah.
things that really help me when I don't have that motivation. If I'm feeling sad, if I'm feeling down, if I don't feel like doing something, if I'm feeling anxious, I'm like,
Right.
okay, you need to find out what are the benefits if you do this, and latch onto them,
This is
and then you
good.
can just do it.
This is
So,
good. This is good. Yo, what's crazy is like I feel like you were watching one of my sessions from today. Literally with a client, we were having a conversation and it came down to me encouraging her to find her why. Why do you
mhm,
feel that way? Why are you acting that way? What is at the core of it? Because when you find the why, then you can find an appropriate and suitable solution.
exactly.
When you don't know the why, you can't find an appropriate and suitable solution. So you just throwing things at the wall and hoping something will stick, and it's not working. And now you're frustrating and you're ready to throw your hands up and give up. You have to find your why so that you can find the solution that goes with the why. If you broke your toe, you're not going to go and take you're not going to go and take chemotherapy.
Right.
But that's what we do. We break our toe and we jump to go to chemotherapy. And then we're upset because I'm getting worse and it's not working. Right. When you find your why, you find the appropriate solution. That's so good. And when you talk about motivation, it's something that I say about procrastination. And I think procrastination and motivation are along the same wavelengths. And one of the things I say about procrastination is we think we procrastinate for the sake of procrastinating. You don't procrastinate nothing just because you're a procrastinator. Procrastination means that there's something about that thing you have to do or that task that you have to do that you are avoiding. Why? Is it
Hmm.
too hard? Are you scared to do it? Is it boring? Is there something connected to it? Do you don't know what you're doing? Like why are you procrastinating this task? When you bring up that question of why, what you're literally doing is opening up a box of solutions.
Hmm.
You're opening up a box of solutions when you ask why and you get to the core of it. Because what you're talking about right now is getting to the root issue, not
Right.
treating symptoms. See, when you
Right.
don't ask why, you're trying to treat symptoms and you wind up taking chemo for a broken toe. But when I know my why, now I know I need to get me a Motrin 800 to
Right.
deal with the pain. Y'all see, y'all notice I ain't say Percocet, right? Because some of y'all, but that's a different lie for a different day. You get you a Motrin 800 because the Motrin 800 will help you to appropriately take care of the pain of the toe. So your why opens up a box of solutions. Somebody drop that in the comments for me because that is a good takeaway. Your why
Hmm.
opens up their box of solutions. All right. So you gave us self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, self-motivation. What is number 5?
Number 5 is social skills, right?
Mm,
Number 5 is social skills. So this is the big one because relationships are big. Relationships are a huge deal, and relationships can either harm us or help us. That's just
mm-hmm,
how it is.
mm-hmm,
So social skills in regard to emotional intelligence is the way that we interact and connect with people and the way that our emotions affect other people. So when
Mm-hmm.
we have a high level of emotional intelligence, we're aware of the way we come off to people, right? So
Mm-hmm.
let's say I am angry at something. If I
Right.
have a high level of emotional intelligence, I'm able to regulate my anger and just kind of do something that's going to make me feel better, whether that's removing myself from a situation or doing some breathing exercises, talking to somebody, whatever. If
Right.
I have a low level of emotional intelligence, then I may misdirect my anger. And we all know what misdirecting anger and misdirecting emotions are, right? That means
Mm-hmm.
that when we take an emotion and we pass it on to somebody that had nothing to do with creating that emotion.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have a high level of emotional intelligence and you're interacting in social situations, you're very aware. It doesn't mean that you're self conscious, but you're just aware of how you come off to people.
Yeah.
And you learn how to connect with people. And if you think about it, these all fall in line with the
Yeah.
empathy. If you're an empathetic person, then you can communicate well with people because you're not rude, you're not judgmental. You take a moment to step back and look at things objectively. So
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest things, the social skills and the way that we connect with other people. So
Yeah. Yeah, these are really good. Like, I hope y'all got these components. He said the 5 components of mental intelligence. Number 1 was self-awareness. Number 2 was self-regulation. Number 3 was empathy. Number 4 was self-motivation. And number 5 was social skills. Listen, when you harness these components, what Dashawne is saying to you is harnessing these components is going to help you to raise your EQ. This is going to help you to raise your emotional intelligence level. And so this kind of leads me and segues me into my next question for you in the next part of the conversation. So we're endeavoring to help people to raise their emotional intelligence and to raise their EQ by harnessing these 5 components, right?
mhm.
How? How do I harness these 5 components? What do I need to do? What steps do I need to take? What's going to help me to be able to do this so that I can have a higher emotional intelligence quotient?
So I think the first thing that you have to do, you have to be willing. And I
Mm,
say that you have to be willing because I know when it comes to emotional work and self work and things like that, there's a lot of resistance because it can be very
mhm,
triggering.
mhm.
Sometimes it can be very triggering. So there's a lot of resistance when it comes to working on our internal selves. There's a
Yep,
lot. So the number one thing I would say is that you really have to be willing to do the work.
right.
The second thing that I feel like you have to do is be aware. And I say that because sometimes how do I put this? Sometimes we're the problem in certain situations, right?
Sometimes you're the problem.
Sometimes we're
Somebody
the problem.
turn to your neighbor. Matter of fact, turn to yourself and look in the mirror and say, sis, bro, sometimes you the problem.
Right. Because I think we have gotten comfortable with pointing a finger. You did this to me. You made me feel bad. You did this. You did that. And what happens is we begin to create a victim mindset.
Come
And
on.
does anybody know what a victim mindset is?
Come on. They don't know. Tell us.
Victim mindset. A victim mindset is when you start to feel like essentially that the world is against you, right? That the
Mhm,
reason why I do the things that I do is because somebody else is causing me to do that. The reason why I
mhm.
feel the way that I feel is because somebody is causing that. Now, don't get me wrong. Someone else may do something that may upset you. Someone else may say
Right.
something that may hurt your self-esteem. But ultimately, you have to be willing to say that I have the power to change this. It does
Come
not
on.
necessarily mean that it's going to be easy, but I have the power. I can make a decision. And once you make a decision, then you can start doing things differently. But again,
Mm,
the first step, I'm willing to take the steps to work on the things that are holding me back. I'm willing to take the steps to raise my emotional intelligence.
yeah.
The second, aware. I'm aware that there are things that I need to work on. I'm aware that sometimes I am the problem. I'm aware of that. And then the
Mm-hmm.
third is actually going to seek the help that you need. Going to seek the help that you need. Because I know that as adults, sometimes the truth hurts, and sometimes we don't want other people to tell us about us, right? Sometimes we don't want other people to tell us about us. But I think that it's very important to get in an environment, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
therapy, whether it is a beneficial self-help group, whether it's a coaching program like the one you're doing, Chanel, I think
Right.
that's so beneficial because when you get into those spaces, when you get into a space like that, that is a safe space. This is what that's like the
Right.
popular word, but it's a safe space. You can be honest about the things that you're experiencing. And sometimes it takes people to tell us about ourselves. So you say, okay, this is how I feel, and this is the way that I've been acting.
Right.
And if you're in a safe space, somebody can say, okay, I don't think that's helping you. I think that's been harming you all this time, and here's why. And I
Right.
think just being willing, being aware, and going to seek
Hmm.
the help. That's how you
Yeah.
can increase emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And
So what
one,
I hear you saying, oh, go ahead.
so one more thing too. The healing, and me and Chanel spoke about this earlier, healing does not look like this. It is not linear. It's not a straight line up,
Come on.
right? So healing the emotional baggage that you have is not a straight line up. It's moments where you're going to be up, you're going to be down. You're going to be
Mhm.
sideways, you're going to be running around the block. Like it can be a lot of different things that you experience.
Right.
So it's very important to understand that when you begin working on yourself, you want to say two affirmations, have one session, talk to one person, like, oh man, that ain't work. Sometimes
Hmm.
you're going to have to sit there and be uncomfortable. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's a very uncomfortable process. So I just encourage everybody, if you want to raise your emotional intelligence, stay aware and be willing to do the work.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is in order to increase your emotional intelligence, you have to jumpstart your journey to mental wellness.
Exactly.
That's what
Exactly.
I heard. I didn't
Ex-
pay him to say that, just in case y'all were wondering. Like I didn't pay him to say that. But in order to increase your emotional intelligence, you have to jumpstart your journey. And what I will say is, even the clients that I'm working with, they didn't even realize that when they started their mental health journey, they were actually positioning themselves to increase their emotional intelligence. Right. And that's a different way of thinking about it. And I think that's important because what I find is there are two types of people that I meet in therapy. I have people who are on the emotional side of it, which is more about connecting emotionally, not emotional in, like we said, the negative sense. But I have people who are on the emotional side of it. But then I have a subset of people who are on the intellectual side of it. And
Mhm.
so understanding emotional intelligence helps us to connect on the intellectual side of it. Maybe it's hard for me to connect on the emotional side of it, but I can connect with the understanding of the emotional intelligence aspect of it. It all works hand in hand and it's all driving in the same direction. And so to increase your emotional intelligence, you have to find I heard Dashawne say, a safe way, right? And as a sister challenged me last year, a brave way, a safe space and a brave space in order to jump start your journey. And that's going to look differently, right? For some people, pick up the phone and call a therapist. It's just time. For some people, like he said, it may be, there's some helpful self-help groups out there, right? There are some appropriate coaching programs out there. Make sure you find one with people who have the credentials to be able to assess and diagnose, because that's important, right? If you go to the wrong thing, it's going to lead you down a path and not be able to give you the resolution that you're looking for so that you can be on this management and you can be on this healing journey, right? And understanding that. So there are different ways. So again, y'all, like I said, shameless plug, stay tuned. Stay tuned because I have something major that is coming. And like I said, it's going to help you to jumpstart your journey to mental wellness. We'll be launching on Black Friday weekend. So stay tuned. And listen, it's going to be limited capacity. If y'all wait to jump on these spots, you're going to have to wait until the next cohort. Like, it just is what it is. And that's all I'm going to give y'all for now. But understanding that jumpstarting your journey to mental wellness will help you to harness these five components that he talked about and being able to increase your EQ. And so I want to take a little bit of shift here a little bit, right? Because I always believe in, we got it. We got the components. We talked about it from an understanding kind of level. I believe in connecting relationally with the people so that they know that they're not alone. So tell us a little bit about your journey with mental wellness. What has your journey with mental wellness been? What have you done? How have you raised your own EQ?
It was a circus now.
That's a real answer, though. That's a real answer.
A true circus that I was not. No. Um, so growing up, I didn't really have an understanding of mental health, right? I didn't really understand mental health. I heard the words depression, I heard the word stress, I heard the word anxiety, but I had no real meaning, no real understanding of what it actually meant. It wasn't until I got into college that I was forced, so to speak, to face my own mental health challenges. Where college was the first time that I ever experienced the anxiety. And
Yeah.
even then, when I began to experience anxiety, I never really thought it was anything wrong because, again, I didn't really have the understanding of what mental health was. So I thought that, okay, this is a very stressful situation, so stress about it. Or this is something that I don't like, so stress about it. Or this is something that is getting on my nerves, so stress about it. So that was my way of coping, was just stressing about things.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I began to do, well, honestly, take certain classes while I was in school that was about human behavior, and also do my own research, that I started to see, like, wait, there's another way. This is not this is not the way that this is supposed to be.
There's another way.
This is a little bit abnormal. There's nothing okay about this. So I began to do research and research and research and read and do all of these things. And then I started to learn more. And it was like a breath of fresh air, I'll be honest. When I started to learn that, okay, when you experience stress, you do X, Y, and Z. When you experience anxiety, you do X, Y, and Z. You don't have to harbor these thoughts. These thoughts happen because of this. When I started to really understand that, I was just like, wow. I became like addicted to it. And then once I started to deal with that, and I began to work in the field, and I began to actually do the work with people, I started to see, like, wow, like it just opened me up to a totally different thing, because I think we see people and we make judgments, but we have no idea where these people came from in their
Come
journey.
on.
And it really humbled me, because when I worked in community mental health, and what I did, it was a partial care program. And for those of you that don't know, a partial care program is something that people that suffer with severe mental illness, they go to a partial care program so they can maintain their stability in the community, so they don't have to be hospitalized. So in the partial care program, we will provide services like group therapy, where we do psychoeducation. There was a psychiatrist on staff, and we would connect them to resources in the community. And there were people that were coming there, but there were people that were coming there that were teachers before. There were people that were coming there that had businesses. There were people there
Come
that were
on.
coming there that had families. So it really opened my eyes. Like, what we see, like, we may see a homeless person at the train station talking to themselves, and in our head, that's mental illness, or that's mental
Come
health.
on.
But what you don't see is that there are people that had lives, just like me, just like you, just like those that are watching, that were
One.
productive, so to speak, members of society. And what happened is they didn't get the help when they needed it. And this is another point that I want to make, and this is something that I was taught and I learned, is that you don't have to wait till chaos happens to seek help. You don't have to wait until your world comes crashing down to start your mental wellness journey. You just don't. And that's what a lot of people do. We experience stress, we experience a little bit of depression, we experience anxiety, and we keep going, and we keep going, and we keep going, and we keep going. And what happens, we eventually crash.
Come on.
So there's a such thing, and it's something that I like to tell people, is that the same way people go to the gym for their bodies is the same way you can go to therapy. You don't have to be in a deep depression to go to therapy. You don't have to be in a deep jam to go to like a self-help group. You can just go to maintenance what's going
Come
on
on.
with yourself and maintenance your mental health. So my journey up until that point was just being humble, to being open, and being open, and taking away the shame that I felt. Because the
Yeah.
shame that comes with mental health, I think that stops a lot of people too, is because it's shameful, right?
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
don't gotta go to a therapist. Ain't nothing
Yeah.
wrong with me. I ain't crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that stops a lot of people, because I was one of those people. I'm not crazy. I don't need to talk to nobody. I do this work. This is the work that I do. I know how to do this work. But I think that when I humbled myself and I opened myself and I realized that you don't have to wait for things to get bad. You don't have to wait for things to be horrific. You can go talk to a therapist just to get insight, just to
Yep.
get a non-biased ear. Because if
Yep.
I come and talk to, like I said, Chanel and Marcellus, that's like my family. If I come and talk to Chanel, she's going to be as objective as she can, but there may still be a bias, and vice versa.
Exactly.
Vice versa,
Exactly.
because there's a history there. But when you
Exactly.
go into a safe space, whether it's a group, whether it's therapy, the therapist is not being biased, or a good one is not going to be biased anyway.
Hmm.
They're not going to be biased. They're going to sit there. They're going to let you talk and express yourself, and they're going to guide you. And
Come on.
sometimes we need guidance. You don't have to be depressed to get guidance. Sometimes you just need somebody to listen and to just guide you without that bias, um, adding anything bias to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
go
You said so much, and it's so good. Like I heard so many different things. One, you talked about our idea of what mental illness looks like and what mental illness is. And we see mental illness as the homeless person on the corner talking to themselves. Then they must be mentally ill. And I remember having a conversation with somebody and talking to them about mental health, and they were so off put by it because it's like, I'm not mental. I'm not mental, because we take that and we don't realize that mental health and mental illness has many faces. Like, you ever see those disability campaigns and they'll show different pictures of what disability looks like, and they'll show somebody in a wheelchair and then they'll show a regular looking person, and both of these people have disabilities. Some disabilities you can see and some you cannot see. It doesn't make it any less of a disability. It doesn't make it any worse of a disability, right? We have to understand that it comes in many different forms, right? And so when I remember years ago, and I always use this example, one of my very first internships I had, this was at the bachelor's level, it wasn't even at the master's level. I had an internship at a place called Bonnie Bray. Right. And my supervisor at the time, one of the things she said to me that I always take with me is that the subset of people that we're talking about, you have people who are on what we would call the psychotic spectrum, right? And those are the manifestations, I guess I'll call it, of mental illness that you'll see. But then you have a subset called the worried well. And we are the worried well, right? There is a subset of people worried well. And that's what you're talking about. You're talking about just going to get some insight, just getting somebody to shoot a couple of ideas off of. There's some clients that I've had for a year or 2 years. And then there's some clients I've only had for like 2 or 3 months, right? Like, there is no, like, you got to give yourself space, and you got to give yourself the ability to open up and give yourself permission to just try it, and not thinking, if I go sit on the counselor's couch, that means I'm out of my mind. That means I'm mental. That means I'm psychotic. That means I'm crazy. Something's wrong with me. No, it means that you're a human. That's what it means. It means that you're a human. And part of this mental health process, and one of the things, so there's a couple of things that I set out to do. I set out to destigmatize mental health, which is why I love having these conversations, because we got to destigmatize it. We have to make mental health accessible to people and help people to be okay with talking about it. But then the other side of it is, my other bent is helping people to embrace their humanity. We have to learn to embrace our humanity and understanding that as humans, we're going to deal with stuff. Show me a person and I'll show you a person with trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Whoever you are, show me a person and I'll show you a person that needs to probably go to counseling, right? It doesn't hurt at all. And it doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. But for a lot of us, it is a necessary part of our journey so that we can make sure if there's anything in there, because I've had clients that's just like, yeah, this is my first bent. I just want to see what this is about, or whatever the case is. And I have some who come in as not believers. And them same people who come in as not believers, now I'm trying to discharge them and they're looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, oh, this not forever? No, it's not forever, but it is necessary, right? And even for those of us who have experience in the profession, even those of us who are advocates and mental health professionals, and we've done the work, we too, we're human. And I say all the time, I'm a therapist with a therapist. I love my therapist, right? And, she just downgraded me to monthly, but I was going to her bi-weekly, right? Or whatever the case is, because I want to make sure I stay on top of my game, because there may be things, again, you said earlier, it skews our perception. I
Mhm.
want to make sure if there's any area where my perception is skewed, I have given somebody in my life permission to check me at the clinical and at the professional level so that my perception is not skewed anymore. And so that is so important and it is so huge. So thank you for sharing that. What was a pivotal moment? What was a turning point in your journey to mental wellness? Like, what was a turning point for you, that moment when you was just like, oh snap, it's time to do something, like now, like I really need to go seek some type of professional assistance?
Um, I think just when I just got tired, and I
Mm,
think that was like the biggest moment. It wasn't like a aha like moment of just like, oh, this. It was just I was just tired, and I
mm,
just kept saying, and I kind of felt like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And I think sometimes too, we have to learn how to be real with ourselves because sometimes
mhm,
we can lie to ourselves so we can stay in our comfort zone. Like one day it'll get better. One day you won't feel like this. One day, but you're not
mhm,
doing anything about it. So I
mhm,
think that I begin to talk to myself and say, okay, if you're experiencing anxiety, if you're feeling anxious, or if you're feeling stressed about something, if you don't do anything about it now, it's going to be
mhm.
like this next year, and then the
Come
year
on.
after that, and then the year after that, and then the year after that. And that's why I encourage people to, like I said, seek that help because, again, like we talked about earlier, your emotions and your feelings and trauma and the things that we experience in this life, they don't just go away. We can't wish them away. They're not just going to just leave us. We can
Nope.
push them down, push them down, but they're going to come up. They're going to come up as anger, passive aggressiveness, frustration, being
Yep.
short with the people that we love, having no patience. People that you see that are angry all the time, there's something going on in there.
Come on.
And that's what I felt. I said, I don't want to be that person. And
Come
if
on.
I don't go seek the help, if I don't go talk to somebody, if I don't do what I need to do on my end, this will go on year after year
Mhm.
after year after
Come
year.
on. Come
And
on.
that was the motivation for me. Like, I don't want this to go on year after year after year because
Come on.
next year I can be in a totally different space. And thankfully I was. But it was just that thing of admitting, being aware, and willing to do the work. So
Yeah.
that was very important. Just being real with myself,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah. Some of us have been dealing with our issue for too long.
Mm,
There are some people, and here's the thing again, y'all, this is no shade, but just a little bit of shade, because I want you to take the steps to get the change that you are deserving of. There are some people who are 40, 50, 60, even 70 years old. My oldest client that I've ever counseled was 81 years old.
mm,
81 years of life and just getting to the point where I'm going to seek some mental health help. Now, I'm grateful that he decided to do it and decided that I'm not going to allow the years that I have left or whatever the case is to be lived in turmoil. But what would his life have been like if he had sorted at 40, at 30, at 20? What would the outcome have been? What would his marriage would have looked like? What would your children would have looked like? Right? Some of us have been dealing with our issue for way too long. And let's keep it funky for a second. 3 months is way too long.
a week. It's way
That's
too
way
long for
too
some
long.
stuff.
Like, you know what I'm saying? But some of us have been dealing with it for years, and we've been living in a place of turmoil for years. I want to free somebody tonight and understand that you don't have to continue going through this. You
Right.
don't have to continue to be in a place and be in a state where you're constantly just depressed, or you don't have confidence, or whatever it is that you may be dealing with. Today is the day. This moment is the moment for you to jumpstart your journey to mental wellness, because you owe it to your tomorrow. Start
Mm,
today because you owe it to your tomorrow. Your tomorrow is waiting for you to get better. There are some things that God has wanted to for you. There is purpose that's in your life. But guess what? This skewed perception, this lens of trauma through which you're viewing life and you're operating in and you're engaging with life out of, it is preventing you from living your best life. It is preventing you from being all that God has for you to be. It is preventing you from taking hold of your tomorrow. And so next year is going to look like this year. And 2024 is going to look like 2019, and so on and so forth. If you don't take the steps, you don't have to keep dealing with it. You don't have to keep dealing with it. And so as we wrap up, right, I have one more question for you. What advice would you give those who are undecided, those who are on the fence about jumpstarting their mental wellness journey? What would you say to them?
I would say that everything does not get better with time. And if you don't do it now, it's like we just said, it's not going to get better. And I know there's a feeling of being apprehensive because you don't know what to expect and you have to be vulnerable, but it's worth it. So I would just say, just do it. Just do it. And it's easier said than done. Don't expect it to be the easiest thing. You're going to be uncomfortable sometimes. But I would really say, and keep it simple, just do it. Because again, next year may not look the same. It may look worse. Not to be like whatever, but it may look worse next year, to be truthfully honest. So whatever it is, seek help. And you don't have to feel ashamed about it.
Right.
I think that's another
Let me
thing.
pause you right there. You said next year may look worse. We assume that we even have a next year.
Right.
We wait to do things because we assume that we have the time to do it. Life is a gift. And I want to make sure that I take care of this gift as much as possible now, because I don't know what next year is going to look like. I don't even know if I have a next year. So I just wanted to interject that. Go ahead. Keep going.
Right. And then the other thing too, I want to add is this, like we talked about earlier, add your why. Find your why. Because I think that sometimes we daydream about better, right? Let's say we may have a very unhealthy relationship with somebody and we don't know how to communicate, and we know, and let's say we're the problem, right? Let's not point fingers at nobody else. Let's say we're the problem. Because if we're not setting boundaries and we're allowing a person to take advantage of us, we're the problem. If we are allowing people to disrespect us and we're not saying anything, we're the problem. So I think that it's about telling yourself, like, okay, I have to do this because I want to be able to communicate effectively. I want to be able to be assertive. I don't want to allow people to take advantage of me year after year. And think about what that may look like when you're able to stand up for yourself, when you're able to speak assertively, when you're able to have a healthy relationship. What will that look like? And then embrace that and know that if you do the work, that is a possibility. If you do the work, that is a possibility. Or you're always sad, you're always just uncomfortable, you have low confidence. If I do the work, then maybe my confidence will go up. That's a very real possibility. So I think you should think about the benefit that you'll get out of starting your wellness journey. And I think that's something that people should answer. Like write down, what will I benefit by starting my journey? What would I get out of starting my mental wellness journey? And kind of take that in, internalize that.
Yeah, that's good. So listen, he just gave y'all homework. I didn't even give y'all homework, but he just gave y'all homework. You're going to sit down and you're going to write down, what is the benefit to me jumpstarting my journey to mental wellness? What am I going to get out of it? I'm going to add a second component to that. I want you to write the cost, aka the consequences of not starting your journey. And I want you to look at that list and then compare and sit down and begin to ask yourself, which side of this list do I need to follow? Do I need to continue riding along with the consequences, or do I need to look at the benefits and then do what I have to do to harness the benefits? And I hear people say all the time, therapy is expensive and so many other things. There are therapists that take insurance. That's number one. Number two, there are so many organizations out there. One, I'm going to give you the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation, right? That is the foundation that Taraji P. Henson founded in honor of her father and mental illness, right? They've been doing since the beginning of the pandemic, right? They've been having campaigns, and I think one of the campaigns are open now, right? They've been doing campaigns where they're paying therapists for 5 sessions. You go to the website, you fill out the application, you choose which therapist you want to connect with in your state, and you are getting 5 free sessions, y'all. That is $750 worth of services that the foundation is picking up for you. That's an option. You can get some work done in 5 sessions at least, or if you're looking for a way to jumpstart and you're not so sure, that's a way to jumpstart. Another foundation, the Loveland Foundation. It's called the Loveland Foundation for communities of color. They are also No holds barred. They are giving away 4 sessions. They are covering 4 sessions for you to get at no cost for you. Another option to jumpstart your journey to mental wellness. Many therapists have sliding scales. But then listen, let me also give voice to this. And y'all probably gonna say I'm biased because I'm a therapist, right? If you have to invest $150 per session, and that $150 is going to help you to transform your life, that was an investment. Hear my words. That is an investment. And when we make investments, we get returns on our investments. See, we'll invest $150 on a Gucci belt. We'll invest $150 on a 5-star meal that in a couple of hours I'm gonna poop it out anyway. We'll invest $150 on a hair. Like, I can keep going, but we won't invest the money into our mental health because it's too expensive. No, what's too expensive is you not doing what you have to do to change your life, because that $150 may be the difference between you having an amazing, abundant, goal-getting life from having a miserable existence. It is worth it. And so even that, we have to do mindset shift around. But that's another series for another day. But I had to make sure I insert that for y'all. But listen, I hope Dashawne, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this information, especially for my intellectual audience. My intellectual audience needed to be able to hear this, that this is not just emotional. It's not all about just the emotional side of it, right? And wanting me to express my feelings and stuff like that. There is an intellectual component to understanding this. And for some, being able to harness that and understanding that not only do I have an IQ, I have an EQ, and it is important that I increase my EQ, I increase my capacity, right? And by jumpstarting my mental health journey, I am helping myself to do that. So thank you so much for being able to share. Really quickly, if the people want to keep up with you or follow you with anything they got going on, how can they do that?
So on Instagram, I am Dash Inspires. On LinkedIn, my name there, that's scrolling across the bottom, Dashawne Hayes. Facebook, Dashawne Hayes. So basically, if you type my name in any social medias, you'll be able to find me there.
Listen, make sure that y'all go ahead and follow him. He's doing some work and he has some really good nuggets about this topic and helping people to understand their emotional intelligence. But I want to thank y'all so much for sticking in there with us. We went over by 17 minutes, but that's all right, y'all, because this is good information. I hope that this was good conversation for you. If this conversation was good, go ahead, drop it in the comments. Listen, drop your biggest takeaway in the comments. Even if you're watching the replay later, drop your biggest takeaway and what you got from this, because this was a great conversation. So listen, we have come to the end, but we have not come to the end of the Jumpstart Your Journey to Mental Wealth series. I'm so excited because next week I'm going to be interviewing Shanae Frazier. Shanae is a mental health advocate, and she is also the South Jersey Regional Coordinator for the National Alliance of Mental Illness. Listen, y'all. She actually helped to connect me with NAMI, with the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and she has a powerful story of learning to manage bipolar depression. And so, listen, make sure that you are tuned in next week. Same back time, same back place. We're gonna be here on Wednesday, next Wednesday at 7:15 p.m., and we're gonna jump into the conversation. Make sure that you share the stream. Make sure that you go ahead and you follow me at Oasis Wellness Group on YouTube, on Instagram, and on Facebook. Make sure you sign up for the email list and you stay tuned. But thank you all so much. I see people are saying that it was worth the 17 minutes going over. My mama is on. She said, "Good talk, Dashawne." People are saying conversation. So thank you so much again. Our online audience, I love y'all. I hope that y'all have an amazing night, and I will see you soon back here next week. Bye, y'all.
Bye, guys.